I just hold my zombie here.
That's so
Oh my
creepy.
God.
We're sitting here talking about what these guys all hold when we're doing these shows. Jeff has a magic
Yep.
band. Apparently, Derek has a zombie. Pandas makes sense. He's got fidget spinners. I'm pushing too many buttons to hold anything. But what do you do?
I just mess with whatever's
What
in
do
my
you
vicinity. So if it's my chapstick, I'll just be like opening it and closing it. And I know but I broke it, so.
Derek, can you push all the buttons for the show next week when we do this again?
Sure. And Paul, you should be holding your beautiful wife's hand during the show is what you should be doing.
Rubbing my feet.
What if we just, the whole show, we just had our hands up
That'd
like
be
this
so
the whole
cheesy.
time?
So cringe. So cringe.
Cringe.
I love that.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. I am your host, Paul Krieger, joined as always by my lovely wife, Amy Krieger.
Hello.
We've got Fidget Spinner, John Scary, aka Big Fat Panda in the house.
Welcome home, everyone.
Creepy. Yeah, I don't even know what
that is
is.
so creepy.
That's Derek DeBoer in like 150
He also swapped out
years.
the weird monkey for Stitch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey now.
There he is.
There it
We're still looking for a
is.
name for him.
It's so flat.
Put a name in the comments. And then Jeff Haslam is with us as well.
Hey, everybody.
All right. Third show of the night. We always get a little bit slap happy by the time we get around to one of these. But this is a great topic that we wanted to talk about, which was something that we actually did 3 years ago. And contributor over on dvcfan.com, Diane Whiting, actually wrote 2 great articles about some hard truths related to Disney Vacation Club that you need to consider if you're going to become a member. And I thought, Amy, you actually kind of said, hey, we need to redo this show because it's been some time. It did very well. Mm-hmm. And I think some of the topics have changed in terms.
Yeah, obviously we always... Look, it's no secret that we love Disney Vacation Club. It's no secret that our jobs are based around Disney Vacation Club. But in order for you to purchase Disney Vacation Club and be happy and not have it be a source of frustration for you, we definitely want you to just know as much as you can, just so you can make sure that it's the right decision for you. And so looking at these hard truths, like these are the things that even some things that I wish that we had known before we bought, then we would have planned a little bit differently or maybe purchased a little bit differently. So.
Yep. So we're going to cover a little bit of everything from both of these articles. We'll put links to the articles in our show notes of this video. But I thought this is a new panel since the last time we discussed this, and it would be interesting to get all of your takes on these topics as well. As always, this and all of our DVC fan content is brought to you by the world of DVC. DVC Resale Market, if you're looking to buy or sell a Disney Vacation Club contract. Monera Financial, who can assist in financing that DVC resale contract purchase. And the DVC Rental Store, where you can try before you buy, rent some points, rent out your own points. And I will end by saying thank you all, because you guys do show a lot of love to our sponsors. We know that. We see those numbers. And just thank you all for everything. And thank you for trusting us, in us believing in Disney Vacation Club and the words that we say about it and how great of a program it actually is. So please continue to show that love, but thank you for the love that you've already shown those amazing brands. So starting off this night, and this is it, and we'll start with controversy, I'll say. But the first thing in one of these articles that is basically a hard truth that you should know about Disney Vacation Club that Diane writes about is it is not a financial investment. And this is one where I've had trouble before, because I have said before that it could be a hedge against inflation. We've seen historically Disney Vacation Club hold its value, and it still does when you compare it to other timeshares. But I think this is relevant now more than ever. And I think, Derek, you can speak to this a little bit more than we can. But we've seen a decrease in the value of Disney Vacation Club contracts. So necessarily, this isn't something that you should be going into maybe as a money-making opportunity. you need to be buying because you love the product and because you love Disney Vacation Club and you want to travel.
Correct, 100%. I can tell you, in doing Disney Vacation Club guide training like 20 some years ago, that's one of the first things that they kind of teach you in training is do not use the word investment. So what this is, it's an investment in your vacations. That's what it is. It's not an investment to where, oh, I know if I buy this for 20 grand, so I'm going to be able to sell it down the road for like 25 or 30, correct? And the whole point is, it really depends on, especially this day and age, how long you're going to keep it, right? So are there old Key West owners, for example, that call us up every single day to sell their contracts that maybe they bought in 91 or 92 or 93 for literally 50 some dollars a point, and they're able to go ahead and turn around and sell it now, right? For maybe 80, 85. It's dipped a little bit over the last, year and a half or so. But those folks, because they've had it and because they've used it and because they invested in their vacations, yeah, they're able to literally say, I bought something for X amount and I took all these vacations with it. And it just so happened that I turned around and I, made my money back and maybe even a little bit more. However, we have folks that maybe joined a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, maybe they bought Riviera for around $200 a point. They haven't gotten that really, return on investment for whatever reason. So they're kind of go ahead and selling it at a loss, right? A lot of times they have a loan that they still have to go ahead and pay off. So it really comes down to, how long you're going to keep it for. So that's really the main thing. We can't predict what's going to happen. We stress that to folks, and I know Amy does too, and I know Paul does too, to everyone. We can't tell what the future's going to hold. Historically, yes, the prices have gone up. However, in this day and age now, we've seen, and we've talked about it on many shows, those 2042 properties are kind of, diminishing in their value. So when that's going to break, we don't quite know. So never look at it as something that, oh, I'm going to buy and I'm going to, get a great investment on. It really is kind of just prepaying future vacations at today's prices. That's what it is.
I think I know a friend that had DVC for like 8 years, went to sell it and said he's underwater a couple $1,000s. I'm like, no, you're not. You used it for 7 years. Like, they don't give the value in their mind to the 7 years of resorts that they used.
Exactly.
Like, that's still a value.
Well, that's a huge thing, Panda, because what people have to realize is say, if I'm not going to buy this, but I'm still going to go to Disney and I'm still going to take, say, 5 to 7 Disney vacations, renting hotel rooms. The main thing is, at the end of that 7 trip, right, you can't call Disney up and say, hey, can I get any money back? Like, any money back. These have been great trips, but I'm done. You can't. So at least if you have this, regardless of how much you're able to get back, you own something tangible that you can at least sell down the road.
Jeff, Panda, was this a consideration at all when either of you purchased in terms of just the value of Disney Vacation Club?
Kind of to an extent, I guess, because I bought mid-pandemic, so my old Key West points, all of them, my whole old Key West building, as everybody knows that I own.
Old Key Jeff.
Old Key Jeff, that's right. Was really an attractive price, which is why I bought there. But I didn't buy it thinking I was going to make money on it. The price was lower than everything else at the time, if that makes sense. Now, as those, like Derek said, those prices are actually trickling down, and I could still sell for more than I bought it for, but like just barely, you know what I mean? And I don't expect that to last much longer, unless something substantial changes. But yeah, I did it because they were the cheapest points at the time, and that was a barrier to entry for me. I couldn't afford, direct prices. So I was like, whatever I can get that's better than Pop Century.
Yeah, I didn't think of it at all. I mean, I was doing the show with you guys, and I just knew I wanted it, needed it, and got it. But I didn't think about the investment part at all.
Yeah. And I think, Jeff, to your point with Old Key West and things like that, Diane did a great example in her article that basically said, could I in fact make $15 more per point over what I paid for my Old Key West contract if I were to sell it today? Yes. But that's a happy accident. It's not an investment.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a wonderful opportunity if you were to have to sell. But truth be told, and Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, most people when they buy, they never think of selling. Selling. Most people do not think down the road that they're going to have to sell this. Unfortunately, life events occur and things happen where they have to part with the contract. And so it's normally you don't make money in those situations.
100%. And everybody will always say, because that was a huge question when you work for Disney Direct, and that's honestly why Nick started this company, is because so many people would ask, when we were direct guides, okay, this product sounds great, but what happens if I have to sell it? People would bring that question up. And back then there wasn't really a place to do it. I'd be like, I don't know, go call, Timeshares R Us and see if they'll buy it back. So that's why he started this company all the way back in 2014, is just to be able to help people. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to buy it. I want the one with the longest deed because I'm never going to sell it. Like, I'm going to pass it on to my kids. I'm going to pass it on to my great grandkids. But honestly, we know the life cycle of a membership because, like you said, Paul, things happen. Things happen. Maybe you're done with Disney, or maybe, your lifestyle changes, or maybe, divorce, or maybe the passing of a spouse. People sell for a variety of different reasons. And that average life cycle, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, I think it's somewhere around like 7 to 10 years, I think, is the average life cycle that someone has a DVC membership.
Correct.
I think.
Yep.
So that's it.
Yeah.
Well, and conversely, we have an RCI timeshare as well that Amy's brother actually was interested in buying from us because we just don't use it now that we live down here.
Right.
And it's going to cost me money to sell it to him, like to get it retitled and
Yeah.
I'm like, we'll just keep it and still not use it. It's cheaper
Oh my
than
goodness.
selling it to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so take that for what it's worth.
Wow.
Yeah.
On the topic of money, as it relates to DVC, another hard truth is that dues are for the whole length of contract. So for some contracts, that's as long as 50 years. So you are paying those annual dues. They are pretty much forever until you no longer own that contract. And every year they also increase, by between 3 to 7. We had some that were over 7% increases last year. So that's just something to keep in mind, something that you need to factor into your budgeting when you are looking at DVC. Even once you've paid that contract off, you are going to pay those annual dues every single year.
A great example of this, and Derek and Jeff can speak to this because they were haggling back and forth about this contract, but recently there was a Vero Beach contract that was like dirt cheap on DVC resale market, and I know it was so attractive that Jeff started crunching the numbers because Jeff's a spreadsheet guy, probably more so than I am a spreadsheet guy.
Yep.
And Jeff was crunching the numbers, but when you look at it, it may be cheap per point. Like, what was that in the?
Oh, it was like below $30.
Yeah,
I think
it was.
$28, I think.
Yep.
$28 per point for Old Key West, which not Old Key West. I'm sorry, Vero Beach. But at that price point, like anyone's eyes would get big. But when you look at what the Vero Beach dues are, Jeff, it barely made sense, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I compared it to what I paid for my Old Key West 3 years ago, right? So you factor in what you paid with how many points are left on the entire contract for the length. Anyway, we don't need to get into the weeds too much, but it ended up being actually slightly cheaper than per point over the life of the term than my Old Key West was. But it was like by $1 a point or something.
It wasn't provided.
And you bought Old Key West at how much per point?
I'd have to look. It was
ballpark
84, maybe.
Yeah.
That's provided the Vero Beach doesn't get hit with a hurricane assessment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They can increase the dues.
But that just shows you like.
And that was for today. Like next year, I think it would swing back.
Yeah.
The other direction.
So like that's 80 something per point up front versus 30 something per point Vero Beach. But Vero Beach's dues are so high that equilibrium over the years, you're going to be very sad with that Vero Beach contract potentially every January when that annual dues bill comes because of how high their dues are. So it is something that you significantly have to take into consideration when purchasing is the annual dues each year. And we've written a bunch of articles on annual dues and how you can actually save and bring down that cost through gift cards and other mechanisms, which are great. But this is something that, even us sitting here in
I know.
August filming this show, like we've already been planning for our annual dues bill coming in January.
And I love Vero Beach, and I'm so excited. We're going to be there tomorrow for the long weekend, and I wish that the dues were not so bad, because I would definitely consider, especially living close enough, to make the drive. And if you ever want one of those 3-bedroom beach cottages, you really have to own there. But yeah, for me, those dues are just too much.
Well, and I think Paul and Amy and everybody, I think on the last show we did, which was about like what things you shouldn't do about Disney Vacation Club, it was one of those shows that was kind of telling people about stuff. And someone made a comment too and said, I appreciate you guys talking about the dues, because a lot of times if people do show, they kind of gloss over the dues, or they'll tell you, like we all, the dues are the best part. I've had mine for over 20 years, right? I know that in January that due bill is going to come. I don't think about it during the year when I'm checking into the Poly or checking into Vero Beach or checking in at the boardwalk. Yeah. It's all of a sudden when you get the bill, you go, oh, God, that's right. I got to pay these dues. But then you break it out and go, how many nights did we get last year on this? Okay, fine. Just go ahead and pay it.
Yeah, and you experience this in the lending world all the time as well. People don't understand that, on top of the purchase price, on top of everything else, when you are purchasing.
Yeah, that is definitely something to consider, especially, when you're buying direct or resale. When you're buying direct, they didn't tell us, and we didn't know we had an annual dues bill when we bought those direct boardwalk points. We bought them in August
or September. Yeah.
And they didn't say anything, and they weren't part of the closing. And here we got the recs pop up when we were trying to book something after they became past due. And we didn't know that bill was sitting there. I don't know why
we were delinquent.
Which is not us. We pay things on time. So anyway, we took care of that. But if you're buying a resale contract, the annual dues, you might be paying annual dues as part of your closing, and it will depend on how many points you're getting for whatever use year. So right now it's August, so if you're getting all the 2024 use year points, then you're going to be paying those annual dues. But there's certain things depending on when your contract's going to close and that. But that's an expense that you have to think about.
Do you remember I called you because I was so excited that I bought 150 points, but they were giving me the 150 from the year before. It kind of felt like I was so excited. And then I called you, I'm like, Amy, what's this bill? And I had to pay the maintenance on, something previous.
Last year's points.
Yeah. So that's always,
you had to explain it to me because I didn't know what the heck this bill was.
It's definitely an upfront cost that I think some people don't consider as well. And when you purchase that at resale, that has to be paid at closing, whatever year dues that you're on, that Disney's on. But then after that, you'll be able to pay directly to Disney. You'll be able to set up the monthly payment if you want to do that, once you've been a member and the next dues cycle comes around.
Yeah.
Panda, I think this next one is to you a little bit, because you kind of sat and listened to all these shows as we filmed them and did a lot of research on the fly as you were kind of convincing yourself to buy. So the next hard truth is there's no such thing as too much research when you're looking to actually buy this.
If you think about it, I got an education because of you guys. I mean, it was my job to film the show, but I was I was into it, getting it. It was great. Yeah. Great for me.
Now Disney Vacation Club hears that, and they'll definitely go, there is definitely something. Derek's laughing because he's like, there's definitely something as too much research. If you've researched this, then we're doomed. Derek probably got educated buyers on occasion on your direct days, I would say.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, way back when there really wasn't that much of kind of a resale market and stuff. So when you're a direct guy, you want people to be so immersed in the magic and the pixie dust that they're just blindsided by it, that they just want to go ahead and sign. I just want to leave with a member bag and my, $30,000 bowl of ice cream and just be, the newest member of Disney Vacation Club. Whereas here on the resale side, what we love, I just love telling people, take your time and do your research. The best guess is because of shows like this, that when people reach out to me, reach out to any of the agents here, are those guests that say, I hope you don't mind, but I've got like 84 different questions that I just want to ask because I've done my research. And I adore guests like that because that means that they know what they're buying. Because I can tell you, and that's exactly touches on this question that you just said, we have every day people will reach out to us selling their Disney Vacation Club membership that maybe they bought direct because they didn't do research. And they're like, you know what, this just doesn't work for us. We can't get anything. I wasn't really sure of the importance of a home resort. So I can't stress that enough. Just take your time, do your research. The only, urgency that we're going to give you here is that maybe a listing you like might be gone, we're going to get another one. So we get, 50 to 75 new listings every single week, but take your time, compile your questions, write down your questions, talk to friends that are members or maybe coworkers that are members. Those people will lay it out because they got nothing to gain by it. So
watch past videos.
Ask questions in the
Past
DVC
video.
group, the DVC fan group. Mm-hmm.
And on the off chance that you got emotionally charged and you were at Walt Disney World and you purchased 7 million Disney Vacation Club points and you came home and you Googled this and you just said, I think I made a mistake, and somehow you stumbled upon this video, keep in mind that you do have, I believe it's a 10-day rescission
like cool off period
in which you could cancel that purchase. And so that is, just something to think about. But, it's like any purchase. I think I used this analogy on a previous show as well. But Amy's uncle one time needed a car because his car had blown up basically, and he was dropped off by a cab at the car lot. And you want to talk about, as a salesman, just sitting there, you're just grinning from ear to ear as that person walks on the lot and gets out of his taxi cab because, they don't have a choice. They gotta get home in a car. And so it's perfect for you. So, don't let yourself be persuaded. Definitely. We've all bought direct and we have all bought resale. This is not an argument of direct versus resale. This is just a discussion of take your time. This is a significant financial purchase. And so you need to make sure that you do enough research in that process. Moving over to some additional kind of hard truths that Diane wrote about after the success of the first article, and one that we've emphasized time and time again on this channel is use year matters.
Derek might disagree on this one. Remember his whole lecture on use year?
Yeah.
It matters if it matters to some people. It doesn't have to matter to
Correct.
everybody. Yeah.
And Derek, I think you've talked before. People get a little bit too hung up here just in terms of trying to find the perfect use year, but you don't know what the future holds. You don't know what your vacation plans hold. And I would say to use year mattering more so just making sure that you don't end up having it. It's not, I've used this analogy before too. It's not Pokemon cards. You don't want to collect them all. You don't want all the use years once you add on to a million different contracts. You want to be methodical about this so that it makes sense, or else you're going to be kicking yourself down.
Use year matters if you religiously vacation at the same exact times a year. That's when it matters. If you don't, we don't. We're always going at random different times. So it doesn't really matter to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, we have, I just had someone today, reach out to me. They've been doing their research, kudos. And then they said, so we're not sure of the best use year, but Derek, we're both teachers. So we always vacation basically every single year in June or July, right? So in a case like that, then it makes sense. You say, hey, you know what? You want to buy the use year then of the month that you always vacation, or just back it up once or back it up 2 use years before that, just in case you have to cancel within that 31-day time frame. That's it. But when guests, reach out and say, sometimes we go in the summer. Last year we went in November. We really like that. I think in 2 years we're going to go in March, and then I think we're going to go. Then it doesn't matter. Then it just doesn't matter. So don't get bogged down and in the weeds and all of that. But again, that's why you want to reach out to people to ask questions like that before you blindly look into buying a contract without knowing what your use year means. And most importantly, Amy, like you said, does it matter in your specific scenario?
Moving on, resort availability is never guaranteed, and this is one that
This is to me, this is the biggest hard truth, and I think we learned this the hard way.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, I remember when we were looking at buying, I pulled up this point calculator and was like plugging in things like, oh, a week at Grand Floridian, and we would have enough points for that. Oh, we could do a week at Polynesian. Oh, we can stay at the boardwalk, And I was looking at all these and not thinking, am I going to get into these places? Because I didn't realize how competitive sometimes booking can be.
Yep. Booking can be extremely competitive, even in that home resort booking window, depending on what resort you buy within that 7 to 11 month window. If you're looking for something that everyone else is looking at, if you are an Animal Kingdom owner and you're looking for the value studio because it makes the most sense and saves you the most points, I can guarantee you that every other owner is saying the same thing in their head and they're trying for that single room. If you're a Riviera owner and you're trying to go for a standard room versus a preferred room because it saves you points, you're going to have a little bit more of a struggle in that window getting that room versus getting the preferred room, which will stay available probably into the 0 to 7 month booking window. So this is something that, unfortunately, as the system has evolved more and more, people, I think, have gotten more and more frustrated with because of how many people are competing for availability. And it also goes to planning ahead. I think it's a lesson in planning ahead for your vacation. If you historically have bought into Disney Vacation Club and you own at Beach Club Villas, but you only normally book your trip within 4 months of your vacation, you picked the wrong home resort. You should have never bought, Beach Club because you are going to be frustrated and you are going to only be stuck at, Saratoga or somewhere else, or you may not even have any options because as more and more people kind of join the club, it does become more competitive, specifically within that 0 to 7 month booking window. So it is something to seriously think about.
Yeah. And along those lines, Paul, about specific resorts, I mean, I've had people, like you said, because again, we're just giving the hard truth about it. I've had people buy specifically Boulder Ridge and Copper Creek because they want to go the first couple of weeks of December, right? And then when they went to go do it, it was brutal. It's like the Hunger Games. Even if you own those resorts, you've got to be on that phone at 11 months to the day. And people are getting savvy because, again, what goes along with savvy people is they've done their research and they know how hard some of these resorts are. So not every resort, even at your home resort, is it going to always be kind of look, I'm 11 months out. I'm 10 months out. I'm 9 months out. I want to go to Copper Creek in a studio the first week of December. It might not be available. So home resort priority does not guarantee that you will have a room.
Did your light just die?
Yeah, I think he just got darker.
It just died. It just died.
You have this nice shadow effect on your one side. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Audio listeners, you're missing out on kind of the silhouette version of Derek. He's so much well lit now, though.
It's a brand new light, though.
No, they're battery powered, so they have to be plugged in and charged. So,
okay.
Panda, has this been an issue for you, or has it surprised you at all with availability since you bought?
No, you know what it is? I traveled, my vacation thing is very different. I'm looking for 1 or 2 nights and I'm pretty flexible. So I always find what I want, or I waitlist it and I'm shocked that 30 days later, exactly what I wanted came through. In June, I waitlisted 4th of July, Bay Lake Tower, Parkview, and I got it 2 weeks later. Again, it was only for 2 nights, but it came through. So I don't think I'm a good measure for other people because I only look for 1 or 2 nights at a time.
We've actually, kind of off topic, but what you were saying, we've had really good luck with waitlists recently.
We have.
We had our Vera Beach waitlist come through for the exact room that we wanted. We wanted to take his mom to Ocean View in room. We've had our Polynesian waitlist come through for the day before the Poly Tower opens. So yeah, like recently,
I've only waitlisted twice and it's come through.
Yeah, so don't discount the waitlist. Definitely give it a shot.
I've actually only been shut out of one wait list that I've tried for.
Oh, wow.
So
what was that for?
It was actually just trying to fill. So I had a split stay with this one random day in the middle. So I was trying to think of when it was. I was at Old Key West and Copper Creek, and then in the middle I had like an Animal Kingdom Lodge because that's all that was available that night. And I was hoping for one or the other, so I had waitlisted both.
Yeah.
And we ended up having to go to Animal Kingdom Lodge for one night. But
Oh.
it did affect me though before I moved here a couple of times. In fact, there was one trip in particular that I just couldn't find anything, and I do believe it was December, if I remember right. I'll have to go back and check.
That first week of December is brutal. Yeah,
we
it's
ended up just buying a room at Pop Century, or no, actually it was a Swan and Dolphin because even Pop Century was sold out.
yeah,
So.
it's a very popular time.
I'm not sure if the next one, well, I can say that I have done this to a degree, not cover to cover. That's even hard for me with a book. I will breeze through pages in a book. But this hard truth is read the fine print, which this is a real estate transaction, and you are presented with a boatload of paperwork when you sign up for this, including basically the official declaration paperwork and the point of sale paperwork for your specific resort, which I think when I last combed through one, it was roughly 200 to 300 pages long. That was a fun night in which I was texting back and forth with DVC fan contributor Lauren Dela Cruz. I don't remember which associate. I think it was when the cabins were declared. And we were,
yeah, I remember that.
and we were going back and forth reading things.
Better
going,
you guys than me.
well, and it's also funny. Like there's the things you know to look for, but then there's things like you see something, you're like, I didn't know they had the ability to restrict borrowing. Like,
Yeah.
And that's an example that Diane uses in this article, which was back during the pandemic. They restricted borrowing on contracts. And actually back when Disney Vacation Club first started, borrowing was not an option that was allowed. And it gradually became more and more, and it became the norm of what it is now, in which you can borrow up to 100% of your next use year.
But if you do want to know more about the fine print, we did do a video called DVC Rules You Might Not Know About. So you could search that one out. There's also an article on it, and it does kind of pull out some of those fine print things that are things you might not know that can change how you use your membership if Disney decided to implement them. But yeah, that's always fun.
One of the hard truths that goes along with that, though, I feel like, is it's always important to be informed and to know what your contract can and can't do, but it's also important to know that there isn't anything you can do about it.
Right.
In this particular case, you're not negotiating with Disney for these things. What their rules are their rules, and there is no changing them. So it's more about knowing.
Jeff, that is such a perfect point that I was going to bring up, because I swear to God, I think it's at least a couple times a week where people will say, so can you send me a copy of the contract of what I'm going to get just so I can look it over, and I have a lawyer and I just want my lawyer. I'm like, we're not changing it. Like, this is literally approved by Disney, that they've approved for 25,000 contracts over the years. You ain't changing one word in this. So you can read it, you can understand it, but if you don't like it, it ain't going to change. So just sign it.
Yep. It kind of reminds me of when we were on Icon of the Seas with our good friends Jeff and Dan, and we went to the next cruise desk to book a cruise, and Jeff thought you could haggle for your cruise offer at the next cruise desk. And it's just, somehow he got a bottle of champagne out of it, but
they give that away a lot.
They do give
don't
that
tell,
a lot.
Don't
yeah,
tell
they
him
do
that.
that.
I think
Everybody.
the first day of the cruise, it's
They
like
had
champagne
it.
day,
Yeah.
and so they probably had some extra champagne in the back. So, but yeah, there's certain things that just aren't going to change, and the contract, we're not going to that language not going to change. Same thing with these. I think we talked about, or maybe it was one of the things about DVC rules you didn't want to know, but I think you did a deep dive.
You didn't want to know. It's you might not know.
No, you didn't want to know. But we did a deep dive into, like, if you were to overthrow the association.
Yeah,
And
we did.
It took like a 80% vote of all members. So somehow
From your resort.
from
Can
your
only be
resort.
people who
So
own that
somehow,
resort.
Old Key Jeff wants to take over Old Key West and rename it. He first has to figure out who all of the owners are and get over 80% of them to sign off on this. but let alone the problems that will ensue at that point, because Jeff is now responsible for, all of
Like
the
operating
budget.
housekeeping,
the operating budget, making the contracts with all of the
Oh.
vendors, all of that kind
Well,
of fun
We
stuff.
don't-
And not only that, but I think it says in there too, or I was reading it somewhere, I don't remember, but you immediately have to remove any signage that Disney has put in place because it's no longer a Disney-owned property, and so you lose your deluxe resort status. Like you're not getting early entry, like everything changes, and suddenly you just became a hotel owner with no training.
Jeff's going to be on the main Old Key West sign with a screwdriver prying the Disney logo off. Like,
I don't know if that's
He's gonna be
exactly how it
standing
goes.
right
but
outside the Thirsty Alligator. Is where he's
Thirsty
going.
alligator.
At least we've got some rebranding ideas.
We will conclude with the two last hard truths, which kind of rounded out both of these articles, which I thought were very appropriate and can't resonate more with us in this group. First, you will love this more than you will ever imagine. If you do all of these things that we've mentioned in this show, if you educate yourself, if you watch our shows, thank you for watching, but also educate yourself beyond that and understand the investment that you're making. It's not an investment, but the investment that you're making in your future vacations, the fact that you are prepaying for years of magical memories with your family, and how you should hopefully, as long as you know what you're doing, not regret it.
And I like the line that she put where it says our Disney vacation, since buying DVC, their Disney vacations have leveled up in a major way. That is true for us too. We were
True for me too.
staying at moderate resorts. Not that we didn't enjoy them, but there's something about walking into the Grand Floridian, the Wilderness Lodge, Jumbo House, and thinking like, my room is here. This is where I'm staying.
And it takes away that pain that we always had when we went back to the airport of thinking, I don't know when the next time I'm coming back is. You immediately knew. We probably had already booked it at that point.
Yeah. Or just simple as, I'd really love to stay the night of this Halloween party. And it's like, okay, well, let's just look. Oh, look what's available. And we can stay at Boulder Ridge, and then we can just take the boat back. And it's just changed, it made that so much easier for us.
What amazes me?
Look at what you guys are doing tomorrow. I mean, by the time this show airs, you guys will have come back. But I guarantee you, because you guys, went on a cruise, with Jeff and everybody, and that was fantastic. But tomorrow, you guys are going to Vero Beach, right?
Yeah.
For a long weekend. I guarantee you, if you didn't have your membership, you wouldn't be like, what would be great? Let's go get like an ocean view room at Vero Beach for a long weekend, and then you price it out. But you're not doing that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
right.
You're able to do stuff that if you had to pay cash and look at the rate, you go, oh my God, no way are we doing that. Well, I don't know. We'll do it later. When you got points, it's like,
right. We would be hauling our sandy butts back into the car if we took a day at the beach and dragging them back home. And
Well, and that even echoes, because there's been some people that in our DVC fan Facebook group that have asked, locals, do you still have your DVC membership? Because they're thinking about relocating or whatever. We've talked about this before. And I'm sitting here thinking about it myself, and I'm like, now that I live here, I can't foresee a scenario where I would go and stay at Pop Century for the weekend.
Right.
And I'm not going to pay cash prices to stay at the Poly or the Grand Floridian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely not.
So those locals that are considering what to do with that, I would just drive home because it's cheap. Where this I've already paid for in a way. You know what I mean? Like it's not money that I'm shelling out. And
because
that extrapolates to there's no way I would have been able to afford to stay at Alani or to drive up to Hilton Head in a 2-bedroom.
Yep,
Just
absolutely.
Because of late night texts that my wife has sent Derek, we've bought 243 more points since we moved.
Yeah.
So put that in perspective. Panda, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I'm constantly surprised when I check out that there's nothing, that there's zero, with the exception of Alani in California with the transient taxes. I mean, I've stayed at other places in Orlando before, and I can't believe, it sounds like a good deal. It's $130 a night. That's great. And then you check out, and I'm looking, I'm like, what is $45 altogether for taxes and a bottle of water that I thought was complimentary in the room? And it just all adds up. But when you check out a DVC, nothing, just zero. I wonder how many people actually know that.
Yeah. We even did that recently at JW Marriott. We stayed at a Marriott property on Marriott points. So
Yeah, on points.
on points, we stayed at the JW Marriott
Not
in
a
Orlando.
timeshare, but like
not a
credit card
timeshare.
points.
So I mean, kind of similar.
How much at checkout? Yeah.
Yeah, at checkout,
How much?
the resort fee per day
was like $40.
was like $40
Mhm.
plus parking on top of that.
Parking was a lot. It was like $40-$50 a night.
So you're not gonna
You have a
just not
$500
gonna-
bill at checkout.
You're not just not going to get the value anywhere. Like
That
you do
happened
at
to us
DVC.
when we just went to New York. We stayed at the Margaritaville Times Square, and it was $45 a day for the resort fee. And we were only there a day and a quarter. You know what I mean? We paid 2 days worth.
And as I said a moment ago, we have added on 243 points since we moved, and that was one of the last points that Diane made. And the second article is that add-onitis is real. It will happen to you, no matter how much you've calculated the numbers and figured out the perfect number of points. You will always want more. You'll get the taste of that 1-bedroom life, and you will want more. It just happens. And don't worry, you can add more points direct. You can add more points resale. There are plenty of opportunities to do that. Everyone here on this call, I think maybe except Panda, has done so. And one of these days, the add-onitis will come a knocking for him as well. So,
well, and I always tell I've got some friends that are thinking about buying. I've talked about this before, but they're thinking, well, we're looking like 150 points is perfect. I'm like, can you afford some more? Like, have you run the numbers? Can you afford another 50? Because that'll save you on a second round of closing costs later if you can just do it now.
And you don't know what's going to happen to the market in that period of time. You know, average prices, at least on the resale market, we saw kind of see a small tick upward, at least for a lot of the Walt Disney World properties last month. Overall average was down a little bit, but it was kind of an odd month where it was like, some of these properties are kind of moving upwards. That's something we haven't seen for a period of time. So, if you have the ability, like you said, Jeff, it's going to save you on some closing costs and everything. And we'll convince Panda one of these days to. Panda, if you were to add on at a different resort, where would it be?
I bet it's Poly. I bet he says Poly.
Good question.
I would get 50 at Poly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or 100 at Poly.
Yeah.
Go 100. 100.
Go big or go home. But this show, and it kind of pairs well with the show that we did a couple weeks back about why you shouldn't buy Disney Vacation Club. But again, it's our job to educate you. It's what we pride ourselves in, regardless of whether or not you do business with our companies here at the World of DVC or whether you buy direct. It is something that we wear on our sleeve. Is we want to be honest with you, give you all of the facts, make sure you make an educated and informed decision when you do purchase this, because it is a big deal. But we do, at the end of the day, tell you you will not regret this, and you will be happy that you are a Disney Vacation Club member, because none of us would be here doing this day in and day out if we weren't, and there wouldn't be such an amazing community of you all if there weren't so many people happy with what they were doing. So as always, joining the discussion in the comments. If you have maybe a hard truth that came up during your purchasing of a Disney Vacation Club, or if there's something that you've experienced that you want to share with us, please. We always love to kind of chat with you there. Like this video, subscribe so that you get all of our YouTube videos. Do the thumbs up thingy. I wish it was a finger gun thingy. Then it would be
cool.
That would be that'd be perfect. But we hope you enjoyed this show as always, and we will see you next Monday.